Hello everyone, it's Barbara and welcome back to my channel, Straight Out of Context. Copyright disclaimer. Under the Copyright Act of 1976, I am within my full legal right to share these following clips via video and audio. The following creators allow reshare, redistribution, and download of their content, and as always, I credit in the description box down below. Fair use, public domain, TikTok third-party license, and TikTok Live automatic third-party license for the use of commentary, reaction, teaching, news reporting, research, comment, and criticism. I am legally within my basic human, civil, and constitutional right to share under the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, to share my expressions, views, thoughts, opinions, feelings, and critiques. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution guarantees my freedom of religion, freedom to exercise of, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, free assembly, and the right to petition the government and air my grievances. The First Amendment does not cover lies that amount to defamation, slander, libel, harassment, stalking, cyberstalking, bullying, cyberbullying, threats, or any other verbal crimes.
Was Gypsy my first? No. I know you might think that because I loved my wife, but man, that's just ridiculous. So what, I gotta be a player and be like, fuck that hoe and all that shit just so I can prove to you that I've had other women? Like, really? Just saying. That's right, she was my ex-wife. I do know that. Believe me, I do know that. I got the divorce paperwork to show that.
I want to talk about Ryan Anderson, the Ryan Anderson, the man that was married to Gypsy Rose Blanchard. He has been going live a lot more recently on TikTok, and he's been going live for a lot longer than he normally does, for about 40 minutes to an hour. He's been doing lives that are lasting upwards of 2 hours or longer, and he recently started battling. But the last couple lives have been very hard for me to engage with in the chat, as I often do. And I noticed in the last 2 lives that he does not look very good. Now, I'm going to show you an example of not the one he did last night, but the one before that. What I am talking about. Now, I'm usually in the chat of his lives, and I have watched him actively read all of my questions and comments and purposely ignore them. And he's always done that. I have always been very respectful, very civil, and I have noticed over on YouTube that a lot of my friends over there have noticed that he reads. You can see him reading in his mind, reading the comment to himself, and he purposely ignores it, or the question that I am commenting in the chat. So I've asked him multiple times, how is recovery going? How are you doing? How is your brother doing? How's your mom? Any of those types of things, and he always ignores it. But he doesn't ignore questions that pertain to Gypsy or that pertain to Ken, because any chance that he gets to talk bad about Ken, he's going to take it. He sits there and endlessly defends, excuses, reasons, justifies, condones away anything that Gypsy Rose Blanchard says or does, but he doesn't grant that same thing to Ken. You know, yeah, it's not a preferred situation when your wife that has been out of prison now, and you've only actually been husband and wife living together as husband and wife for not even 2 months, and you find out that she's already talking to an ex-fiance from several years before, and that she just suddenly and abruptly abandons you. Yeah, that's got to be a hard situation. But here's the thing, and I do not defend Gypsy as much as she lies. There are certain things that she has said that has not been a lie, but it has been used strategically. That truth has been used strategically and weaponized to hurt somebody, to harm somebody, to defame them, and publicly, globally humiliate them. My whole thing with Ryan is the last few times in his last couple lives that he's mentioned Ken, you know, he's said that he's civil and respectful to anybody, and that he grants that to anybody. He leaves the chat open to anybody, but then immediately turns around when bringing up Ken and says that guy can F off. And yeah, you get what I'm saying. You can't in one breath be like, yep, I like everybody and I'm cool with everybody. I'm civil with everybody. Oh, yeah, except for that guy. Except for that guy. But put all the blame, shifting all of the blame onto Ken. Because Ken and Gypsy are equally as responsible for what they did. As much as Ryan wants to blame Ken for impregnating his still legal wife, he has to remember that Gypsy allowed it to happen, and she was a willing and active participant in it. But yet he still makes excuses for her. Why? Because she's the one that has the large following. She's the one that has the fame. She's the one that has the story. She's the one that has the crime, the criminal record. She's the one that if he publicly denounces and finally accepts the fact and lets go of the fact that they are no longer husband and wife, she cheated on him, she had a whole baby on him, she filed for divorce, she divorced him, she X'd him out of her life and out of her show. That would be the moment that Ryan Anderson has to come to terms with the fact that it is over. But see, for the rest of us, from the outside looking in, it has been over a year. Okay, baby Aurora is going to be a year old on December 28th of 2025. She's going to be a year old. Plus, she had a whole 9 months of pregnancy. It has been long enough. You didn't even live with this person as husband and wife for 50 days by the time she was already contacting Ken. And I know he wants to placate Gypsy because all of his following, the attention in the TV show, everything that he has as far as that goes is solely because of her. And she only has what she has solely on the fact that Nicholas Godejohn was thrown under the bus for her crime. So it's really weird that she piggyback rides off of her crime for infamy and what she did to Nicholas Godejohn and what happened to his mother because of those actions, words, choices, and behaviors of said crime. And Ryan Anderson is piggyback riding off of her. But you know what's funny is Ken Urker does the same exact thing. He actually has said it multiple times in the live where a lot of people called CPS for the second and third times because they thought he was using substances. Right when it began, Ken said, oh, I'm not going to even begin saying and addressing what I have to. This is when they were in Miami, Florida on vacation, by the way, in a hotel where he was vaping inside, which is prohibited, by the way, right in front of their own baby Aurora, by the way. After the whole thing with going to Austin, Texas, the week prior, going over 85 miles per hour in a 65 zone and 77 in a 70 zone with baby Aurora not even strapped in appropriately to her rear-facing car seat. But I digress. He says a comment that verbatim, I don't have the following that some people have, unquote. That right there tells you where Ken's mindset, how he thinks internally really is. Because people that are with Gypsy because they truly love her and want to be with her and they don't care or like the fame, the attention, the infamous notoriety that surrounds her and her crime. And it's been so long since she's been released and the TV show's over and the TV show was not doing well. In fact, all it did was really expose more of her inconsistencies, more of her lies, more of her negative and bad behavior with using people, discarding people, disposing of them, and expecting them to just slink away quietly. But see, that's where the anomaly is with Ryan Anderson, because he did not slink away quietly. He did not just fully accept what she did to him and shut up. But it's the same exact thing with Ken Urker. He is with Gypsy for that fame and notoriety. He left her right in the middle of her prison sentence, and he did not come back into her life till after she had the prison confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She had an ebook. She had TMZ now picking up stories about her and People magazine, and had Lifetime reality TV show, the Gypsy Rose Life After Lockup season 1 starting. And then the first thing that Ken does, and I told you from day one, when he sat down in the trailer for season 1, And he said, I've never done anything like this before, meaning being on camera. Yeah, because you have no reason to be on camera. You're not famous. You don't have a talent. You're not on camera for a good reason. You're on camera on a D-rate reality TV show with a convicted life taker. I mean, unless Ken Urker just goes around to like all these people that have had really high notoriety cases and has been sleeping around with them, and he's like, comes back and he's sitting on camera like, hey, I've never done this before. Well, no crap. How many convicted felons are you sleeping with and taking away from their husbands and impregnating, Ken? And how many of those are infamous for it? So that told me right from the get that Ken is with her because of the fame and the attention. Ken, you're better off moving to LA and just finding somebody that actually has some kind of notoriety or positive fame for a positive talent than fucking around with Gypsy Rose Blanchard. But I'm going to play this clip right here, and I'm going to put the sound down, okay? Because he's still talking about Gypsy and how he was so heartbroken and everything. But look at him, okay? Tell me that there is not something going on here with Ryan Anderson. When Gypsy Rose Blanchard put out that he's on MAT, methadone specifically, for MAT, I don't think she was lying. I think she was telling the truth with that to intentionally hurt him and harm him. And then she also made a comment saying that he and his brother take more than what they are supposed to, and that they often run out of their medication. Part number 2, because I just don't know how to stop at a 10-minute limit. However, I'm going to take both of these videos and I'm going to edit them together streamlined as one video and then re-upload it so you don't have to worry about going to part number 2 and watching it. I'm going to do all the hard work for you. So this right here, and I'm going to turn the volume all the way down. This is a live that Ryan Anderson did. Not last night. It was the live before that, the night before that. And this particular live, I am mentioning it because I got on there just briefly, maybe 15 minutes or so, and I was asking him the same thing. How are you doing? How's your brother? How's your mom? How's Pixie? How's life? You know, have you had any luck finding a job? How is recovery going? Because even though Gypsy Rose Blanchard had put it out that he is on MAT therapy, specifically methadone, which is one of the 3 types of MAT, which is medicated assisted therapy or medicated assisted treatment. Some people call it one, some people call it the other. That is either Subutex/Suboxone, which is the same medication, naltrexone, which is just a blocker that is used not just for opiates, but for alcohol, and or the third, which is methadone. Now this MAT is specifically for OUD, opioid use disorder. I have done entire videos giving you all the facts of what MAT is, what each of the 3 different options for MAT are, what they do. I have talked about all of the statistics of opiate use disorder, alcohol use disorder, or other substance use disorders. And out of 340 million American citizens, it is estimated over 1/4 of all of America suffer with some kind of substance use disorder in totality, collectively. And that's not even the over 32 million people that are in recovery or on their journey to recovery. Now, I will also say that the number is down, but out of 22 million people in the last 20 years have either been on some form of MAT, are on some form of MAT, or were on some form of MAT. Now, that's a significant amount of people. That means that there is pretty much no person in the United States of America that doesn't have a family, extended family, immediate family, that they don't have some kind of coworker, friend, even a very distant relative, or they know somebody through a mutual friend or family that either has passed away from some kind of substance use disorder, and alcohol is the most dangerous out of all of them, included opiates, that they don't know somebody that has either been to rehab, is actively using, is actively in their recovery phase, or is on some kind of MAT. And it's not all just for opiate use disorder. Naltrexone has been used for millions and millions of Americans that suffer from alcohol use disorder. So there is no judgment, there is no hypocrisy at all when it comes to this. Because if that many people in America, pretty much everybody has known or is affected or affected by this, then there really shouldn't be any hypocrisy or judgment, right? We have over 630,000 people just in 2025 alone pass away from opiates alone. And that's not even including other substances or alcohol. And we know that alcohol and even opiates have been a problem for a long time. People think that any kind of opiate, that's a newer thing, that it started in the late 90s with certain medications coming onto the market, but that's actually not true. Suboxone, for instance, Subutex was actually developed, and a lot of doctors by 1996 had gotten their license to be able to prescribe it. Now, it wasn't FDA approved until after the year 2000, but it has been around for 3 decades. Now, as far as certain opiates that come from a certain poppy plant, and that's the thing that always drives me nuts about people that like to garden, and their whole entire argument is always like, well, God put a plant here and so it should be good for you. So nicotine comes from the tobacco plant. Cocaine is derived from the coca plant. Heroin is derived from the poppy plant. You know, there's a lot of plants on planet Earth that are not only dangerous, but fatal to Homo sapiens and other species. It doesn't mean that it's here just for you to abuse. But of course, that's where the habit forming addiction part comes in, with how it changes the brain's chemistry. And that is beyond somebody's control. And any kind of addiction issue addiction does not discriminate. It doesn't matter if you are worth $485 billion like Elon Musk, or if you're homeless, living in a cardboard box, begging for change. Addiction does not discriminate at all. But I'm going to put this clip right here, and I'm going to put the volume down, and I want you to just take a good look at what I was seeing. Okay, now Gypsy Rose Blanchard also got very mad at Ryan because he won't be quiet. He won't slink away and just shut the hell up and stop talking about her, stop mentioning her, stop showing her red bottom shoes that he's trying to sell. He won't stop showing pictures or drawings on his fridge. He won't stop saying little snide comments about Ken. And every live that he does, he says he's not going to get into it and he's not going to say anything disparaging, but he does anyway. I have been asking him, how is recovery going? How are you doing? And this right here tells me that he clearly is still struggling, and I have a lot of sympathy and compassion for that. But I also personally reached out to him to let him know, because he's been making cameos. He's made over he's made over 300 and I think 30 cameos now, and I know that has got to be closer to 350, 360 cameos, and they are $59.99 a piece. So if you take 300 and you times it by $60, that is $18,000. And he only started doing cameos 3.5 months ago. So Ryan Anderson has made over $18,000 just on cameos alone. Yes, I am the one that did the math on that. I mean, anybody can easily do the math on that, but I showed the math on that. I personally reached out to him and let him know that there is a place that you can go to if you're ever interested in abstinence, if you're ever interested in rehab. There is options. There are places. In fact, one of them are here. One of them is down in Florida. That is a really great rehab that is able to help you get off of that. And there are different options. There, you can get a loan. You know, there are payment options. There are scholarships and grants on top of paying for it. But clearly, Ryan Anderson, I mean, if he can make $18,000 in 3 months, he has more than enough money to be able to afford that if he wanted to do that. So it's not like people don't care about him. People have, myself included, reached out to him and said, hey, if you're ever interested, I have this information. Here it is. You know, here's no answer whatsoever. And there is one thing that I'm going to say about that. With as much bullshit and lies and inconsistencies that Gypsy Rose Blanchard does and that she has been caught in, she does sometimes say little bits of the truth in there, but that is a tactic that sociopaths, psychopaths do to not only, in their own mind, lend credibility to the lie and the inconsistency that they are telling. That way they can internally digest the fact that they are lying, because they know they are. But they also are known for weaponizing the truth. And that's exactly what she did when she put out the fact that he's on MAT after a whole entire 10-minute long crying, "I'm so sorry" video. And we all saw every single narcissistic word that was me, I throughout that whole entire thing. It was all about her, not apologizing to him. And that was the beginning of the end, as far as Lifetime wanting to work with her, TMZ or People Magazine wanting to cover her anymore, because they all witnessed that as well. She also put out the private text messages after that, as well as the fact that he's on MAT, methadone, between him and her father, where he then tells her father, Rod Blanchard, to take that down or I will sue her for HIPAA and defamation. Saying, "See, look, I'm telling the truth." Yeah, but you're doing it to hurt somebody, and it's not your truth to put out there. But when she said that he's taking more than what he should, and if you're not taking it as prescribed, then that is active addiction. I kind of don't disagree.